Hi class, in today's video we're going to go over 7.01 romantic music. Now when you hear romantic music, don't think, Valentine's Day and romance and love. It's not what we're talking about, I promise. So you're going to be looking at the orchestra and families, specifically romantic music. So let me Google up for you. I want you to open up a browser. And I want you to go to Google and I want you to type in 19th century romanticism, right as you see it on the screen. And I want you to scan the results list and choose a reputable site. Wikipedia is not a reputable site, because remember, Google is a search engine, not a source. And just find one or two sites that you think are reputable. And choose one, maybe two interesting facts that you want to share, and you're going to type it in the question on the next moment. But I want you to go look it up. What do you think it is? If it's not the lovey-dovey romantic stuff, then what is 19th century romanticism? So now that you've looked it up, the romantic era was from 1830 to 1900. This is a little disputed. Some say 1820, some say 1850 to 1900, but the 1900s pretty firm. Mid to late 1800s is very accurate. This had a really individual sound, and it was really intense on expressing emotions and feelings. The art movement of the time really went to mimic that. Art and music really mimicked each other during this time period, especially when we talk about Impressionism. The art movement of Impressionism really mimicked the music of the Romantic time period. We have this strong sense of nationalism. There's a lot of stuff happening in the world at this time, and so nationalistic music was brought to the forefront to really unite the people and have that sense of unity and oneness. Really, like I said, music and art really had this unification that was happening. The movements were mimicking each other and supporting each other. There's this strong focus on tone color, and this comes from the Impressionists. So impressionistic paintings, one of their methods was dot paintings, is they would take a single dot of pigment and just go, bloop, and they would do an entire painting of these just little bitty dots to create an impression. So instruments were used in the same way. They were used as little dots of pigment. Each instrument has its own tone color or timbre, kind of the way it sounds. It's very characteristic of it. And they would be plopped in like little dots, little bursts of this tone color. Some people literally see color. It's called synesthesia. And so sometimes you want just like this hint of yellow tone, or I need some blue tone here. And so this focus on tone color and made it really emotional. Uses chromatic melody and harmony to create emotional intensity. So when we're talking about scales, the major scale is the whole, half, whole, half. Well, when you're looking at a keyboard, it doesn't use all the black and white keys. The chromatic scale uses everything. So everything was fair game. They're like, let's use it. Why not? Crazy over here. They also expanded the existing classical forms. So we had the sonata form, but now we're going to be bigger. We're going to do more with it and continue to expand. The orchestra expanded heavily during this time period. More people were playing instruments. It was more easily accessible. More people were literate. And so there was more people. So we're going to make the orchestras bigger, which makes it easier to do these tone color pieces because you have more instruments to work with. Expands the range of dynamics, so to just like soft and medium and loud. Soft and really loud, which I'm not going to scream in your microphone because that hurts your ears. We also have miniature pieces as well as long monumental compositions. When I say miniature pieces, we have this German lieder that's very short, it's little snippets, like a fairy tale is short, whereas these monumental symphonies and operas and orchestra pieces are more like a novel. So here's your question. Why have modern composers added unique and interesting instruments to the orchestra and combined instruments in different ways? Why did they do that? Is it because of the form? So the way the music is formatted, the pattern of the music? Are they interested in the tone color, so how it sounds? Or are they interested in the dynamics, the how, loud, or soft? Let's talk about a couple composers that are very characteristic of this time period. We have Mr. Brahms. He was born in Germany and he was a pianist and composer, but he lived a lot in Vienna, Austria, which was at the time a really big hub for music. And up until this point, a lot of stuff has been in Italian, but Austria is now a big music hub. And so we get a lot of stuff coming out in German because that is the language that they speak there in Austria. He was considered a traditionalist. We had this balance of very traditionalist and progressive ideas. And he was one of our traditionalists. He's like, I'm going to hold on to my standards from the classical era, and I'm just going to keep it tight. We're just going to hold on to this. He expanded them, yes, but he's like, let's take what already exists and make it better versus creating something new. We're just going to build on what we've got. And he had a major inferiority complex. He was compared to Beethoven so much, and he was over it. But his work was really indicative of Beethoven's. He would just come from Beethoven, and now everybody wants to talk about, oh, he's next Beethoven. Beethoven, stop comparing me. So tell me, Brahms was known for his interpretation of classical forms and styles updated with romantic harmonies, making him a true successor to which composer, and he hated it. So who was he compared to? Beethoven, Schumann, or Chopin? Who was he compared to? Now let's talk about Chopin. So Chopin is Polish born in Warsaw, virtuoso piano. So most of his compositions are piano, and there are these beautiful, lush piano pieces. He also composed a lot of etudes, and they were meant to teach people how to play piano, specifically how to play his piano pieces. He spent a lot of time in Paris, so he wrote a lot of works that we consider very indicative of French culture, just because of where he was. And he was not a very healthy individual. He had a lot of medical stuff going on, and he died really young. He had a very high profile career. He was one of those stars who burned bright and fast and left us too soon. And he was considered a symbol of the Romantic era. He was big on Impressionism, and remember that little burst here and there, which is really amazing because he worked on piano. So sometimes his impressionistic pieces he wrote a lot of nocturnes, so it gave you like a feeling of something. So it invoked this feeling. I'm going to play a snippet of one of his really famous nocturnes, and on it is a picture of Van Gogh's Starry Night, which is an impressionistic art piece. So I want you to kind of look at the two and see how the art and the music mimic each other. So right, I can put here, wrote impressionistic pieces, not program pieces. So program music, this is where you literally write a snippet that goes with your music and say, I am writing music about this river. And there are trees, and there's a mountain in the distance, and there's people going down the river, and there's a little bit of cute village. Look at the cute village. That's program music, where even though the music has no words, it is meant to invoke a very specific picture. Impressionistic music was meant to give you the impression of, or the feeling of, or the idea of something, not literal. Tell me, what is the difference between program music and impressionistic music? Now, I just want you to enjoy this little snip of one of his nocturnes. I'm not going to ask you a question about it. I just want you to enjoy it for just a moment. Next is Mr. Tchaikovsky. Peter Tchaikovsky is Russian-born, wrote a lot of really Russian nationalistic music. And during this time period, we had a group known as the Russian Five, and they were a group that worked together to create music. He was not part of that group, but he was also creating music at the same time period that was very nationalistic in nature. He was self-educated, but he was principally trained to be a civil servant, and he did work in that field some. He is known for the Nutcracker and the 1812 Overture. So Nutcracker, a bunch of us are used to hearing it at Christmas time. That is Mr. Tchaikovsky. You can thank him for that. And it is based on a Russian folk tale. So that's where the story comes from. And so he had these very big international ideas, and he had a hard time kind of melding that with these Russian nationalistic views. It's part of why he wasn't in the Big Five. He just didn't fit the mold. So listen to this clip of Tchaikovsky's music, and I want you to tell me, do you recognize it? And what does it make you think of? Remember, everything in this time period is either program, very specific thought, or impressionistic, where it's a feeling. So I want you to listen to it and tell me what comes to your brain. What does it make you think of? We are at the end. There is so much more to cover on romantic music. Please, please read in the course, come to the live class. Next week, we're going to continue the Romantic era, and we're going to talk about all that nationalistic music. There's a ton of that, but we're just going to start small with the broad view of Romanticism. Have a great day, and remember, call me, beat me, you know how to reach me. Please let me know if you need help. Bye, guys.